let's spend a little more time investigating percent change. Remember, it could be an increase or decrease depending on which direction the numbers are going. In order to find the percent of change, there's more than one way to look at it, but for the most part, first find the change, which is the difference between the two numbers. Use the starting or the original amount as your base, and then you can write a proportion to solve for the percent. That's one method, and we'll show a few others today. Now I'm going to be using words like from, starting, original for the beginning amount. Then I'll have the words to, so it might go from one number to another, or it starts and ends. It's the original to the final. All of these words are telling us it's going from one thing to another. So how do we go about calculating this? We'll follow these steps. We're going to find the change, which is the difference. We'll subtract. The base number is always your original or starting amount. So if it started at 40, that's the base. If I'm going to use percent, I'm going to write another ratio with x over 100. Why? Because we don't know what percent that's what we're solving for. So now let's go ahead and find the difference or the change, which is 25. And that's compared to the original, which was 40. And again, if we choose to use cross multiplication, which is the best method for this one, I'd get 40x is equal to 2500. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 40. And as you see, they both have a 0 here. I can cancel one out. And then I'm going to get x is equal to, now in this case, I'm going to get a decimal. So I can possibly, depending on the directions, say that MAS to round to the nearest percent. So this is approximately equal to 63%. But I have to qualify it now. This is a percent. It went from 40 to 15. It's a percent decrease. So you're always going to tell me, is it an increase or a decrease? You're going to show me some work to show me that you know how to go about calculating this. Now again, I did say there's more than one way to do it, and it really depends on the problem what method you choose. Let's do some more. Percent change. Start off by finding the difference. So again, I'm going to just scroll here a little bit, and I'm going to see that I have 100. So I'm looking for percent change. And to calculate percent change, I'm going to find the change or the difference. And I'm going to then place that over the original or the starting amount as the base number here. Now, when I calculate this, before I set up a proportion, I want you to see that sometimes when I calculate this one, I get 20 over 100. And guess what? 20 over 100 is in percent form. So this is now a 20% decrease. I can set up the proportion to prove it, because then I'd have 20 over 100 equals x over 100. And again, I would get 20% decrease, sorry. On to our next, percent change. Percent change is now the difference. Let's subtract 65 minus 35. What number goes down as the base? The starting of the original amount, what it starts from. Now go ahead and subtract. So as I'm looking at this, this will give me 25 over 35. So now I have this 25 to 35 ratio, and that's going to equal to x over 100. This number is not 100 here, and it's not compatible to 100, so I need to use my cross products. I'll have 35x is equal to 100 times 25, and again, I'm doing all the steps. Some of this you can eliminate. As you're doing it, you can say, oh, well, 100 times 25 is just 2,500. And now you'll divide. Here's where you want to pull out your calculator. This is not the kind of calculation you want to do in your head. So if you're going to take that 35, all right, and see what it is, I'll give you a second to calculate it. Did you get 71.42? And it keeps going and going and going. So we're going to round this to the nearest whole number percent. And we're going to get approximately equal to 71%. Look at the numbers. They went up, so it's an increase. Let's just do a couple more. Start to final, start to finish, initial to final. All these words go to, from. So now let's just imagine this was a word problem and you said that your average was an 82 in a particular subject, and then all of a sudden by the end of the marking period it went up to a 90%. What was your percent change? Again, percent change says let's find the difference, and then we'll have 90 minus 82 over the base number is always your starting amount. Now you're going to get 8 divided by 82, and again we're going to now do a proportion. Sometimes it's just easier to do the proportion because the numbers don't work well together otherwise. Multiplying, some of you are forgetting, you have to multiply across and multiply across again. Well, 8 times 100 is just 800. Next step is to divide. And again, take out your calculator, find your answer, and we'll see if we agree. When I divide, and hopefully you got the same thing, I got 9 and 75 and 6, and it just keeps going and going. So what would we do with this problem? I think the best thing for us to do would be to round this to the nearest whole number percent. So this is an approximately equal to 10% increase. One more for you to try before we move on to something else today. And if you feel we need more practice, please ask. We're looking for percent change. Hopefully you have this set up now. It's 50 minus 35. Your goal is to find the original or starting amount as your base number, which is 50. Now, as I do this calculation, I get 15 over 50. Now, I can set up the proportion that I've been doing all along, or you could notice that the 50 is compatible to 100, and our goal is to convert this to a percent, times 2 times 2, and this will give me a 30% decrease. So that's what I meant by that. Sometimes there's more than one way to do it, and it depends on the problem. Cross multiply and solve for x is what I've been doing for most of the problems, but there are some that if the starting or original amount was 100, it's already in percent form, and if I have numbers like 10, 25, 50, 4, those are compatible with 100, so I can just set up an equivalent ratio. So there you have some practice on our last topic. There are more problems for us to try. You let me know if we need to do some more together. But here's a couple for you to try if you just want some practice on your own. The next thing we want to talk about is applications of percent. And usually I ask you to brainstorm a list, but here's a list for you. Well, percent comes in the form of taxes, okay? Percent tax, whether it's your income tax or tax on things that you buy in the store. And speaking of being in the store, sometimes you get a discount, which means that you're getting a savings by a certain percent. Commission. Some people have jobs where they get paid based on the amount of sales that they make. A realtor, a car salesman, sometimes store clerks get paid on commission, and there's other areas as well that get paid on commission. Markup has to do with the amount of money that a store is going to earn. They're going to purchase things at a certain amount, and then they're going to raise the price so that they can get a profit, and that's called markup. And then we have interest, simple interest that can be earned when you invest money, or interest that you're charged if you borrow money. So we're going to be investigating a good number of these applications. And we're going to start with tax. So I'm going to leave you with this problem, and if we have time in class, we'll go over this. If not, this will be our mission for our next class.